What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Alright guys, so we're going to cover some Hulk comics on my channel today because I feel like we don't actually sit down and talk about the Hulk that often. I mean, I know he does have a few videos on my channel, but not that many. So let's change that, shall we? And let's cover the Joe Fixit miniseries that just wrapped up earlier this year in Marvel Comics. Yes, you heard that right. Joe Fixit had his own 5-part miniseries, which honestly, it was a very good story. I actually liked it. It was not over the top. It wasn't pointless. It was just really Joe Fixit coming back to Vegas and fighting against the Kingpin of all the villains he could possibly fight in a Hulk book, which honestly made it even more fun to read. Now, with all that being said, if you're new to Marvel Comics and you have no idea who Joe Fixit is, let me explain for you right now. And so back in the 1960s, Marvel made the Hulk. Now, the Hulk was actually gray, except after a few issues, they could no longer print the Hulk gray anymore. And that exact word right there, print, because they had a printing/inking problem when it came to Hulk being gray. And so they told Stan Lee, you have to change the color of the Hulk. And of course, they did. They made him green. And of course, that is the color where most fans know the Hulk. Now, over the time in Marvel Comics, the Gray Hulk would appear, but it would just be another persona in Bruce Banner's mind. Now, when Peter David finally stepped in and did his legendary run on the character, he did change a few things about Bruce Banner, starting off with the idea that his father, Bruce Banner's father, was very abusive to him and his mother. And so with that happening, all the anger that Bruce had over the years is the reason why the Hulk persona came to life, meaning that when Bruce Banner was hit with that gamma radiation, it unlocked this new persona in his brain. But this new persona is just all the anger Bruce had over the years thanks to being abused by his father. Now, when it came to Peter David, though, he also added on the idea of Grey Hulk. And what he said was Grey Hulk is Joe Fixit, another Hulk persona in the mind of Bruce Banner. But the reason why we see the green one more than the gray one, because the green one is more savage. He gets angry quicker and stronger quicker. Because remember, the angrier the Hulk gets, the stronger he gets. And so because Savage Hulk gets so much stronger, he was able to outbeat the Gray Hulk when it comes time for the Hulk to come out of Bruce Banner's body. But when it came to Gray Hulk, Joe Fixit is more intelligent than the Green Hulk. He does have some intelligence when it comes to actually being a Hulk. But on top of that, you also have Peter David say, hey, when it comes to Joe Fixit, he's not holding all the anger that Bruce had growing up. This version of the Hulk is all the things Bruce wouldn't do, all the mean things that Bruce wouldn't do. And so all the negative thoughts that Bruce Banner had, but he did not do because he's a good guy, that made Joe Fixit a separate persona in the mind of Bruce Banner. And so that is where Joe Fixit actually came from. Now, on top of that, Joe Fixit is kind of like a mafia kind of dude. He's always part of some kind of gang in Las Vegas and doing some things in Las Vegas, which ties into the mafia, which of course means a lot of different gangs. And so as we go through this series right here, you're going to see that basically it is a mafia book. And so getting into today's storyline, we actually do pick up with this news reporter. Now, this news reporter is talking about Joe Fixit in a way of kind of saying to us that Las Vegas has no idea that Joe Fixit is actually a Hulk. In their eyes, right now, Joe Fixit is just some big guy who's in Las Vegas who works for another guy known as Mr. Berengeti. Now, Mr. Berengeti is actually going to be really important for this storyline, and you see as we go through this book. But with that being said, though, when it comes to Joe Fixit, to the people of Las Vegas, he's just some big guy who may or may not have powers. They have no idea that he is a Hulk, but he does do some good things on the side, not intentionally. Like sometimes he's just there because a gangster or someone else is causing problems for Mr. Berengeti. But when he does stop that thug, of course, in the eyes of the public, it looks like Joe Fixit is actually a good guy protecting the city. And so again, when it comes to this reporter, he's kind of making it seem like the public really has no idea who Joe Fixit actually is. They have no idea he is a Hulk. And that is the moment we actually get introduced to the second character of this storyline, which is Spider-Man. Because right now you have Spider-Man watching the news report and laughing at it, because he knows that when it comes to Joe Fixit is just Bruce Banner, the Hulk. But of course, for these people, they have no idea. Now, you do have Peter Parker trying to go back home to New York, except that is the moment he sees Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. Now, for Peter, he knows if the Kingpin's here in Vegas, he left New York, that means the Kingpin has something big up his sleeve. And the question is, though, what? Now, one of his guys does mention about going to the Coliseum, and the Coliseum is actually the casino that's owned by Mr. Berengeti, the guy that Joe Fixit actually works for, which means that the Kingpin is literally going to see Joe Fixit's boss right now. But you do have Spider-Man put a spider tracer on the back of the Kingpin shirt to follow him, because now Peter is not going home. He knows that if Kingpin's here in Vegas away from New York, something is about to go down here in Vegas. And so while you have the Kingpin right now in his limo heading towards the Coliseum, while you have Spider-Man on top of his limo, this is the moment where we actually learn what the Kingpin is up to, where the Kingpin came to Vegas because he heard that there is another gangster group or mafia group known as the Magia that is trying to take over Las Vegas criminal underground, starting with Mr. Berengeti. Now, this is the Kingpin saying, if I go there and offer my help to Mr. Berengeti, then we can actually defeat the Magia. But once we actually defeat the Magia, then I'll take over Mr. Berengeti's operations. They'll all be mine. And then I can start the process of actually controlling Las Vegas along with New York as well. And so as soon as the Kingpin arrives to the office of Mr. Berengeti, you do have Mr. Berengeti tell Kingpin that really his whole entire trip is pointless now, because when it comes to Mr. Berengeti, he tells Kingpin that him and his group was actually able to deal with the Magia group. So really, Mr. Berengeti no longer needs the Kingpin's help when it comes to dealing with the Magia group. Now, for the Kingpin, he is not okay with this at all, because this man left New York, came here to Las Vegas with all the confidence in the world, believing that he'll be able to take over Las Vegas, starting with Mr. Berengeti. Now, as soon as you show your anger in the office of Mr. Berengeti, you have to deal with Joe Fixit. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to Joe Fixit, he is a Hulk, but let me explain the difference between Joe Fixit and Savage Hulk. So yes, the angrier they get, the stronger they get. But here is the difference though. Savage Hulk, he does get stronger the more mad he is. Joe Fixit, same thing, except Joe Fixit only gets stronger at a slower rate. And what Peter David told us back in his run when he was writing the Hulk back in the 1980s, what he said is because Joe Fixit is more intelligent than Savage Hulk, that yes, he does get angrier, he does get stronger, but he gets stronger at a slower rate than Savage Hulk does, because Savage Hulk is less intelligent. And so it kind of says that Kingpin may get some punches in on Joe Fixit. It's not going to do much to Joe Fixit, but it kind of gives Kingpin a better chance to try to fight the Hulk, which honestly is still a bad idea for the Kingpin because you're still fighting a Hulk. And matter of fact, you do have Joe Fixit beat down on Kingpin. Now, Spider-Man does arrive because remember, Spider-Man saw Kingpin at the airport and realized, I cannot leave Kingpin here in Vegas by himself because we already know if Kingpin's away from New York, he's probably doing something really big and evil in the city he's in. And so you do have Spider-Man kind of team up with Joe Fixit to defeat Kingpin. And once they do, you do have Joe Fixit say, listen, go ahead and leave before you get beat down even worse than you did right now, because I'm going to tell you, I'm letting you off lightly right now. And so you do have the Kingpin leave before you have Joe Fixit do more harm to the Kingpin. Now, because Spider-Man helped out Joe Fixit and also helped out Mr. Berengetti take down the Kingpin, Mr. Berengetti gave Spider-Man a penthouse that he can use. And on top of that, an account that he can use to basically go downstairs and gamble all he wants to. Because again, Spider-Man helped Joe Fixit defeat the Kingpin. Now, when it comes to the Kingpin, you already know that he's not going to take defeat so lightly. And so this is the Kingpin saying that, you know what? I'm going to come back here and I'm going to kill Joe Fixit. And so this just wraps up chapter 1 of this storyline. And so getting into the second chapter, we actually pick up with the Kingpin right now, meeting up with some guy talking about the idea of using a neurotoxin. Now, at first, this guy believes that the Kingpin is having this meeting to get this neurotoxin to use it against Spider-Man. Because usually when it comes to the Kingpin, you're fighting against Spider-Man or Daredevil. So honestly, can you blame me for thinking that you're here for my neurotoxin to use against Spider-Man? But then you have the Kingpin say, no, I'm here to use it against Joe Fixit. But getting back over to Spider-Man, let's not forget that when it came to Spider-Man, Mr. Berengetti gave Spider-Man a penthouse to stay in, but also an account to use for anything he wants to do in the actual casino. He could gamble or buy anything he wants to buy in the casino. Now, he was called down to a different room, and of course, he was called by Joe Fixit because Joe Fixit wants to party with Spider-Man. Now, at first, Spider-Man's kind of like, I'm down to hang out with you, but who are all these different ladies? And for Joe Fixit, he's kind of like, these are ladies for you to have fun with. And for Spider-Man, he's like, no, I can't do this. I'm not married because, the whole Mary Jane, Peter Parker thing is kind of complicated, but you do have Peter tell Joe Fixit, no, I can't do it. Like, I honestly can't not do what you want me to do. And so you have Spider-Man just leave this party that was full of ladies that were there to have fun with Spider-Man. Now, when it comes to the Kingpin, we do see that right now he's testing out the neurotoxin. And what I mean by that is you do have this particular guy who has these long claws for fingertips attack the Kingpin to kind of test out the neurotoxin. And once the guy gets close enough to the Kingpin, you have the Kingpin release the neurotoxin into the guy's face, which then makes them angrier. And so that means that the neurotoxin does make a person angrier than he was originally. But then we jump back over to Peter Parker. Now, when we do, we actually see Peter Parker right now leaving the casino that's owned by Mr. Berengetti. Now, this is Peter wondering if he should do something else in Vegas or should he just go ahead and leave and go back to New York. Except that is the moment he sees the Kingpin again. It's the Kingpin coming back to the same place, the same casino where he just got his butt kicked last time in the last chapter, which again is a casino owned by Mr. Berengetti. And so this tells Peter Parker, okay, what the Kingpin is going to do now. Like, this dude has literally lost his mind. And so you have Peter actually confront the Kingpin, but as Peter Parker, not Spider-Man. And so for Wilson, he's kind of like, who is this guy right now standing in front of me? Because the Kingpin does not know that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Now, with that, the Kingpin is also wondering why this random guy is not scared of him, because he is the Kingpin. But you have Peter say, yes, I know who you are. I seen you on the news, but I know you're not going to do anything at all to me because right now we're out in the open in the middle of the city, meaning that the public can literally see you if you try to do anything at all to me. And so you have Wilson kind of show that he likes the confidence in Peter Parker. And so as he walks away, you do have Wilson mention his son, who right now is dead currently in Marvel Comics, and says that Peter reminds him of his son. Now for Peter, he's kind of like, okay, I need to basically change back into my Spider-Man outfit to stop the Kingpin, because right now he's about to do something really bad here again. Now, while the Kingpin is walking back into the casino, you do have Joe Fixit watching the security cameras and realize who is coming back to the casino, the Kingpin. And so this is Joe Fixit saying, not gonna have it. I have no idea why he's here right now, but it's time to shut things down. Let me go ahead and leave this party and shut down whatever the Kingpin is trying to do. And so you do have Joe Fixit and the Kingpin actually sit down and have a drink with one another. Now, this is the Kingpin telling Joe Fixit, I want you to work for me. Now, for Joe Fixit, that's funny, because to Joe, he's wondering, why in the world would I leave my current job to work for you? Like, honestly, that's crazy that you honestly assume that I would do something like that. Like, come on, dude, really? You believe that right there? And so he tells the Kingpin no. Now, for the Kingpin, he's kind of like, okay, fine. Plan B. And that is the moment we see the Kingpin actually release his neurotoxin in the face of Joe Fixit. Now remember, when it comes to the toxin, when someone is hit with the toxin, they get angry. And so right now you have Joe getting angry, which is a problem because remember, he is a Hulk. He's just a different version of Hulk. But on top of that, the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. And that is going to be a problem for this storyline. Now, you do have the Kingpin tell Joe Fixit to go ahead and destroy the entire casino, but make sure you kill off Mr. Berenghetti as well as you go on your rampage. And so you do have Joe Fixit going on a rampage in this casino. Now, because Peter Parker was nearby, he does change into his Spider-Man outfit to fight against Joe Fixit. But he does knock out Kingpin first, which honestly I liked. And then he was like, okay, you know what? Now it's time for me to deal with Joe Fixit. With the Kingpin knockout, I can now focus on Joe Fixit. And honestly, we do see Mr. Berenghetti actually walk out the elevator, and he was hoping that he'll be able to actually talk some sense into Joe Fixit, which honestly is a bad idea. And so you do have Joe almost killing off Mr. Berenghetti, but luckily for Berenghetti, Spider-Man was there to save his life. And you have Spidey tell Berenghetti, get out of here before he kills you. Like, did you honestly think you could talk to this man and he'll just calm down because you guys are old pals? That is a dumb idea. Either way, you now have Spider-Man on his own to fight against Joe Fixit, and this wraps up chapter 2. And so getting into the third chapter, we actually do pick up with Bruce Banner right now in the past, and we see him going to a diner. Now, when he does go to this diner in the past, he is confronted by Peter Parker. Now, Bruce has no idea who Peter Parker is. He has no idea that Peter is Spider-Man. And so he's kind of like, hey, who is this guy right here? Now, Peter did not come to this diner to talk to Bruce Banner. Matter of fact, Peter Parker came to this diner to stop a bad guy known as the Absorbing Man, because the Absorbing Man was at a bar the night before telling people at the bar that he was going to rob a bank. And so that bank is actually across the street from this diner. And so Peter came here to get food at first and then stop the Absorbing Man. Now, with that being said, though, when you have Bruce turn into Savage Hulk and you have Peter put on his Spider-Man mask, you have the Absorbing Man just run away because he realized he does not stand a chance against two heroes against him by himself. Now, after he leaves, you do have Spider-Man and the Hulk have a conversation. Now, this conversation shows that these two characters do have some kind of bond. And I kind of like this because Peter David actually wrote both characters in the past, and so it's kind of cool to see him use both characters in this story right here. But what is happening right now is Spider-Man kind of getting a better understanding of the Hulk. Because when it comes to the Hulk, yes, he is a savage. He's always angry. But the reason why he is always angry because people just won't leave him alone. If people actually leave him alone, he's okay. And that's all he wants. And so when he tells Peter Parker that, or Spider-Man that, you have Peter realize, okay, that makes more sense now. Because if people leave him alone, then he does not go on a rampage. On top of that, he's actually able to have a conversation with the Hulk. And so this is Peter realizing that the Hulk is not really a savage. He's just a guy who wants to be left alone. And when he's calm, he can actually have a decent conversation with someone. But again, it all comes down to the idea of do not tick off the Hulk. And unfortunately, while you have our two characters right now at this diner in the past, you do have some people who decide to, of course, come after the Hulk. And that leads into the Hulk wanting to smash those people. But getting back into the present day, we still see that Joe Fixit is right now angry and trying to kill off Spider-Man. Now, Peter Parker does not want to actually fight against Joe because this is Spider-Man hoping that with their bond they have built over the years in Marvel Comics that maybe he'll be able to help Joe Fixit actually snap out of what's happening to him right now, which is somewhat being controlled by the Kingpin. And so you do have Spider-Man call out for Bruce. He does not call out for Joe Fixit, he calls out for Bruce. And this shows that Peter David is trying to tell us that other characters in Marvel Comics don't truly understand the Hulk and how his mind actually works. And honestly, we kind of get reminded on the origin of Joe Fixit in this section right here as we go inside the mind of Joe Fixit, Bruce Banner, or the Hulk. Either way, as we go inside the mind of Bruce Banner, you have Peter David tell us, hey guys, let's not forget what I told you guys back in the 1980s. When it came to Bruce Banner, he was abused by his father. All that anger and hatred that he had towards his father when he was hit with gamma radiation, all that anger and hatred made a new persona, which was Savage Hulk. But all the negative thoughts that Bruce had that he was not going to do because he is a good person, all those thoughts created Joe Fixit. And so right now you have Bruce actually talking to the Joe Fixit persona in his head right now. It's these two guys kind of battling for the body of Bruce Banner. Now for Bruce, honestly, he wants to give up. He's tired of going through the different personas, the Hulk, Joe Fixit, other Hulks out there we've seen over the years in Marvel Comics. Like right now, you have Bruce kind of telling Joe Fixit, just take over. Like you want to be me so bad, you want to have complete control, then you know what? Just go ahead and take over. And so you do have Joe Fixit, quote unquote, actually kill off Bruce Banner in his mind. And so we're left to believe that now we're going to have Joe Fixit in control the entire time, which honestly we know that's not going to happen. And so back in the real world, you do have Joe Fixit right now just jumping away, where it kind of shows us that maybe he's back to being normal. We have no idea, but it does seem like that there's a possibility that he does now have full control of the body of Bruce Banner, because in his mind, he killed off the Bruce Banner persona. Now, you have Spider-Man go and try to find the Kingpin, because he's trying to figure out how in the world can he help out Joe Fixit before Joe Fixit caused more problems in Las Vegas. And so you do have Spider-Man being able to actually locate the person that Kingpin hired to make the toxin. Now, when Spider-Man does confront this guy after the Kingpin actually leaves the warehouse, because at first Kingpin was there, but you had Spider-Man wait until Kingpin left. But once he did left, you have Spider-Man say, you know what, let me talk to this guy, and hopefully there could be some kind of cure in this warehouse that could help Joe Fixit out. Unfortunately, though, when you have Spider-Man go over to this guy and begin to actually question him, you have the guy tell Peter Parker, or Spider-Man, that no, there's no cure. Like, Kingpin paid a lot of money for two reasons. One, to get the toxin, and two, to make sure no one could defeat the toxin. And so right now, it's Peter Parker realizing that he has to find a different way if he plans on actually helping out Joe Fixit. But getting back over to Joe Fixit, right now you have him trying to wake up the Bruce Banner persona. Now remember, we saw Joe kind of kill off the Bruce Banner persona when he left the casino. And when he did that, we were left to believe that now he's full control of Bruce Banner's body. But we come to find out he does not have full control of Bruce Banner's body. Because right now you have Joe Fixit trying to wake up the Bruce Banner persona, because in the real world, something happened while you had Joe Fixit jumping in the air. Because while he was jumping in the air, Joe Fixit went from Joe Fixit to Bruce Banner. And right now, Bruce Banner is falling out of the sky and about to crash into the ground of Las Vegas. And so getting into the fourth chapter, we actually do pick up with the Kingpin right now, honestly believing that he's now in charge of Las Vegas criminal underground. Because with Joe Fixit out there being crazy, and with Mr. Berenghetti right now in hiding, it gives Kingpin the right to take over the area of Las Vegas. And so these smaller criminal groups are kind of like, wait, you're going to tell us that you're going to just walk into Las Vegas and now you are in control? Like, honestly, that's not fair. Now, while you have these men having that conversation, they do hear a very loud boom. And of course, that loud boom came from Bruce Banner, because remember, he was just Bruce Banner falling out of the sky. But luckily, with Bruce Banner being able to wake up in time, he did let Joe Fixit come back out, and Joe Fixit crashed into the actual ground, which did cause that loud boom sound to happen across Las Vegas. Now, right after that, you do have Joe Fixit get out, and Spider-Man does swing by. And when he does, you're kind of like, okay, cool. Joe Fixit should honestly be on Spider-Man's side now, right? And matter of fact, you have Spider-Man asking Joe Fixit, hey man, are you cool? But as soon as Joe Fixit turns his head towards Spider-Man, he shows anger all over again, where it seems like you're going to have Joe Fixit fight Spider-Man once again. Now, when it comes to the Kingpin realized by this point, he's going to need some kind of protection. Like, if he's going to run Las Vegas, he needs to make sure that he is protected. And so you do have the story tell us that the Rhino and Electro are two supervillains who are going to work for the Kingpin as a way to technically protect him while he runs his new business here in Las Vegas. So getting back over to Spider-Man and Joe Fixit, we actually do see Spider-Man and Joe Fixit fighting against each other one more time. But while this battle is happening, you do have Spider-Man keep calling Joe Bruce Banner. Now for Joe, he hates hearing the name Bruce because to him, he's not Bruce Banner. Right now, he's Joe Fixit. He's the one in control of the body of Bruce Banner. And so he's hating the idea of hearing that name called over and over and over again. Now, while you have Joe Fixit fighting against Spider-Man, you do have Bruce talking to Joe in their mind. And it's Bruce telling Joe, you can't cut me out. Even though you hate me so much and I hate you, I realize something, that you are always going to be a part of me, like I'm always going to be a part of you. So we're stuck with one another forever. But for Joe Fixit, he hates the idea of that. And so he's telling Bruce, can you please shut up right now in their mind conversation? But then we finally pick up with the Magia group. Now remember, the Magia group was the other group that was trying to take over Las Vegas. But now they're saying to themselves, we have the chance to actually do it. It's just that now we have a different enemy. And that different enemy now is the Kingpin. Now, we kind of find out who's part of this Magia group. And honestly, it's kind of sad because it's just a bunch of C-list characters like Count Nefera, the Masked Marauder, Hydro Man, and Whiplash. Hydro Man is probably the best character on that team, and besides that, he's still a C-list character. Either way, though, this group right here is the Magia group that is trying to take over Las Vegas, and so now they're going to go after the Kingpin. But getting back over to the Kingpin, right now you have Kingpin handing out a bunch of different contracts to other leaders of Las Vegas who are basically bosses of different mafia groups in Vegas. But either way, it's the Kingpin saying, you guys now work for me. Those contracts explain what I expect from your families to do for me as the new Kingpin of Las Vegas. Now, that is the moment you have Joe Fixit walk in with Spider-Man. Now, remember, with the gas, Kingpin was technically in control of Joe Fixit. And he told Joe Fixit to, wreck the casino, kill off your old boss. And that was honestly it. Now, he did not say kill off Spider-Man, but this is Joe Fixit pretending that right now he still works with the Kingpin and he brought over Spider-Man to be killed off by the Kingpin as a present towards the Kingpin. And so then we come to find out that this was actually a trick. Because then you have Spider-Man show Electro that one, he's not knocked out. Two, his hands are not tied. And so you have Spider-Man being able to punch Electro. Now, right after that, you then have Joe Fixit tell the Kingpin that you are no longer going to be the Kingpin of Las Vegas. That role belongs to Mr. Berenghetti. And so we see that Mr. Berenghetti has now come out of hiding and he's like, yeah, I want my job back. I'm the Kingpin of Las Vegas. Get out of my chair before I send Joe Fixit to do some harm to you. And so you have Kingpin actually walk up to Joe Fixit because this is Kingpin thinking, don't worry, I got more toxin to use on you. And once I do use it on you, Joe Fixit, you're back under my control all over again. Except the problem is though, when Kingpin walks up to Joe Fixit, he sprays more toxin in the face of Joe Fixit. You have Joe tell Kingpin, oh, by the way, I plugged some things in my nose to block out the toxin, so unfortunately your toxin is not going to work. And so you have Joe Fixit begin the process of just beating down on Kingpin once again. And so with that happening, that means Rhino and Electro got to jump in, which means Spider-Man also has to jump in. And so we do get this long battle between all these different characters in what seems to be Kingpin's office, but honestly, it's not his office. But either way, as the fight does go on, you then have another group come into the fight. because we cannot forget about the Magia group, because again, they're trying to take over the criminal underground of Las Vegas, and they came here thinking that they'll be able to actually defeat Wilson Fisk to gain control of Las Vegas criminal underground. And so now they are also going to join this big battle between all the different characters. And so getting into the final chapter of this storyline, it's honestly just a book full of fighting. Like, honestly, there's a whole lot of fighting, which, matter of fact, the fighting is broken up into two different parts. And you see what I mean as we go through this chapter right here. But you do have all three groups actually fight against one another to really just become the kingpin of Las Vegas. Now, it's kind of funny because when it comes to Spider-Man, you would think that he would try to take down all three groups, because all three groups are just trying to be the kingpin of Las Vegas. But I guess for the sake of the story, the only bad guys are really just Wilson Fisk and also the Magia. Now, with that being said, you do have Spider-Man and Joe Fixit work together as they kind of fight against both groups. And so while the fight does go on, you did have Electro realize that technically he can actually take all the power from Las Vegas, supercharge himself, and then possibly wipe out everybody else in the room, because there is a lot of power just coming from Las Vegas itself. And that's what I mean when it comes to how the fight is broken up into two different sections, because once you have Electro go supercharged, you do have Kingpin just get the heck out of there and on his way to the airport to fly back to New York. But on top of that, with Electro being supercharged, he is a very powerful threat. But that threat honestly doesn't last that long, because it comes to Hydro Man, because electricity and water do not go so well together. And so while you have Electro thinking that he's now supercharged, oh, by the way, Electro stops working for the Kingpin and then joins forces with Hydro Man, which honestly backfires on him, because while he's supercharged, you really have Spider-Man and Joe Fixit just make Hydro Man and Electro run into one another, which then leads to Electro being short out. And so with that happening, it's kind of like, okay, the day is saved. The Magia group, they're defeated. Kingpin, he dipped out. Electro, Rhino, they're knocked out. Like, we have technically won the battle. The day is saved. And so you honestly have Joe Fixit tell Spider-Man, well, with the day being saved, why don't I actually show you around town? Give you a small break, because honestly, you helped me not once, but twice today. And so that really wraps up the Joe Fixit miniseries, which honestly, like I said, I do like it a lot. It was a very interesting storyline to actually sit down and read. But with that being said, guys, I do hope you enjoyed today's comic book video. And if you did, hit that like button down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.